Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the studio this evening. Thank you very much for joining. Please excuse me, I still have a cold, which I got whilst I was away, so I'm afraid you'll have to put up with a somewhat odd voice. A bit like stabbed and cut. Good evening, Just Jessup, and how are you doing? I am, as you can hear, doing with a back end of a cold. And Noesi, good evening. Welcome to you to the studio as well. You demand music, do you? Well, go ahead and play it. I don't mind at all. You're quite welcome to play as much music as you like. Even better if you can play it on your own instruments. Since my order for new threads came whilst I was away, I just felt like we'll finish this first, and we'll also see how my throat stands up to the talking this evening, and if I can manage to keep talking, shall we say, and then we'll move on to the carving if this gets done before the end of the stream. So, Lizard Cell, good evening. I was on holiday, so I missed nothing. I just sat and did nothing but read books and have a cold. Thank you for missing me. That's most kind of you. And well, as you can hear, Lizard Cell, or hopefully as you can hear, I have a somewhat odd voice on account of the fact that I've had at least one cold in the past 2 weeks, and possibly two. Right, so it is the right colour. I've just been sorting out the threads that I got back from the company, and despite the fact I know what I ordered, they sent me what I ordered, it still took me about 15 minutes to work out which colour was which. I should really be using my other glasses, but they're not around, so I'm not going to go spend time looking for them. Oh, come on, thread. All you got to do is go through that thread. This is where you need patience. For those of you that kept asking me, do I need patience to do any of this? Only doing things like threading needles when it won't do what you want it to do. Am I into roller coasters? Not fantastically. From the point of view, I actually don't find them particularly exciting most of the time. This thing is now stuck. There's Alton Towers in the UK. Is a theme park which is supposed to have some of the, or at the time that I last went, supposed to have some of the, the best and scariest rides around. Now, this is a good few years ago, I must admit, but and it's one of those where you face down as you come out of the station to go up the first ramp, and most of the time you face down, apart from the fact when it flips you on your back. But to be honest, all I felt like there was going to sleep. It was so relaxing being on the roller coaster that I could quite easily have gone to sleep on it. The only roller coasters which get me are ones where they used to be called the wild mouse type things, where you literally it would turn 180 degrees in its own width, if you see what I mean, and especially if they're high up, so you actually go out over the edge and you can see down. So like the one that's on, I think there's one in Las Vegas, which is on a big tower. I think it is, or maybe it's the Needle somewhere. I can't remember, but it's actually out over the edge, sort of 300-400 feet in the air. I wouldn't like to do that one. Well, I'm sure. Actually, I'm not too bad. When I do get a cold and I get a really low throat, I can really go really low, and it actually rolls really quite nicely. But no, I've not heard about any. I don't keep up with roller coasters, to be honest. Just Jessup, as I say, I've kind of found them boring, so I've just put that thread away, and I still need it. I kind of get more fun out of watching other people on them than I do going on them myself, to be honest. I mean, even if you talk about like Disney World and places like that, there's quite a few coasters there, obviously, and I mean, in sort of Epcot, for example, there's the test car, test dummy type one, and I've kind of looked at that. I'm not really interested. I tend to prefer the somewhat more relaxed rides than that. So I don't know if you think about Epcot, for example, Spaceship Earth, that sort of nice and slow, something to look at. I don't particularly get much out of the thrill rides as such. Right, so there's a loop of thread on the back. Let's cut that off before we catch it on something. Oh, that's not very good. I thought they had all sorts of protections on to stop that sort of thing happening. Yeah, as in different sections, like trains. A set of cars couldn't go into a section until it was clear. Alton Towers, yeah. Oops. Well, sorry for the person that potentially was lost a limb, and let's hope the other people get better quickly. Not a fun day for anybody then. I'm thinking I need a bit of light here, actually. Let's do that. So, who have you all been watching whilst I've been away then? Whilst I was away, we actually did have a little bit of internet access. Couldn't really watch anybody because there wasn't sufficient bandwidth, but did drop in on AD Fall Guy a couple of times whilst we were away. That. Didn't think that was working properly just then. No, it's not. That actually looks like a different colour. Oh dear, that's a problem. That is a potential problem. Let's pull that out of there. Oh, well, there you had a wonderful opportunity to see other things and you missed them out. That colour actually looks a different colour. It's a different shade. Now that could be a problem. Well, yeah, I'm not sure you'll see it at the moment on the stream. Apart from the fact I've messed up a little bit, that looks a bit darker, does that? I'm going to get a couple of the other threads, bobbins out, and we'll have a look. This is yeah, okay. I can see it because they're side by side, but the camera's probably not picking it up. Just Jessup. Let me just cut this off of here. This is one of the problems actually of things like this, is because of course you know, the threads are dyed really, and so if it, you know, if you get a different batch, then the dye can be very slightly off. When that happens, it shows up. Okay, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at these two threads side by side. They both came together, and this one in the holder actually looks marginally darker to me, which is what I'm seeing. So I'm going to do is try and put some of this in. That's one of the difficulties. I mean, even when you get them in the same, obviously they potentially have got them in different batches and they've just pulled them out. But unfortunately, I really wouldn't be keen on leaving them as they are here. It's quite visible to me that it's a different colour, and whilst, you know, in probably about a month of light, they'll probably fade enough to match. They do now stand out at the moment. So those two I can see, whilst they're meant to be the same colour, they are very slightly different. Actually, you can probably see it on the video. The colour of this one is slightly different to the colour of that one. I can see it in the stream preview coming back. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell much different, but it just looks a very slightly shade darker. And you only see it when they are side by side. If they're not side by side, you probably wouldn't be able to tell at all. So let me thread this, and then we'll pull out what the threads I've just, you know, the cotton I've just put in, and try again. Yeah, it is. But what the problem you've got, Just Jessup, is that it's a straight line down here, and it will stand out as a straight line, and there's no reason to have a straight line in the sky, and so it will show up, you know, like the proverbial sore thumb, and that's that's the that's what it's going to be difficult. If I'd managed to get it acrosswise, if there'd have been a horizontal line, then it wouldn't have been so bad, because you kind of get sort of slight horizontal variations in the sky, like sunset and things like that. So it perhaps wouldn't have looked so bad. It's with it being vertical that it's showing up as a it's going to be a problem. And again, if there was something between them, like if I'd put a tree in here, for example, just a little bit of green. If I didn't have another roll, for example, if I put something in here like let's say a tree branch, just to separate the two off, you probably wouldn't have noticed it. Unfortunately, there's this edge here, so I'd have probably had to sort of do something. In fact, probably what I might have done is sort of I don't know, put something in along here. Not quite sure what, just something to separate it. This sort of colour matching is actually a problem in lots of things. For example, Free, when he's airbrushing, if he has to mix a colour again, to patch an area or something like that, then it's really hard to actually mix an exact match the second time to the first one. I mean, there are people that can do it, but it's certainly not the easiest of things to do. So what we do now, having just rethreaded that, is we now pull this out, and that is quite simply a case of getting hold of the thread and pulling it out. I'll throw that bit away, and we'll try again, and we'll see how this shows up. Dear. The ends of this material always fray, and they tend to get in your way somewhat. Trouble is, if you cut them off, it tends to make them fray more for some reason, so I do tend to leave them where they are. Luckily, this material can take being punched in the same place several times without too much of a problem. Come on now, don't start. This is looking a bit darker as well. We can play a couple of tricks with this if we need to do so. This isn't coming in. It's catching somewhere. See, it's often a problem actually with a full reel. Sometimes it doesn't want to. The full reel sometimes is heavy enough to stop it sticking in the material where it's supposed to do so. So we'll just help it by pulling some spare thread through. Let's take a look at what that looks like. No, it's darker. This one's darker as well. Ah, dear. Right, what me? They're the same. Okay, so we're stuck with a slightly different batch. Okay, well, we shall use this slight trick in this particular case. Just put the other threads away. One of these days I'm going to buy proper cases to keep these things in, rather than odd boxes. Actually using an old helicopter case for those threads, and it doesn't quite close properly and it annoys me. And so one of these days I'll buy sort of some proper, I don't know, proper boxes of some kind. Some maybe hard cases or something like that to keep things in, which probably means I'll never do it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to fill this block in. I don't have a choice really, not unless I pull all this side out as well, and I don't kind of really want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this block in, and what I'm going to do then is I'm going to literally do some dithering basically, and punch a lot of this darker blue into this area here, which will make it a bit harder. But what it'll do is it'll just spread out the colour a little bit along this edge, and hopefully then it'll look a little bit more like it's due to a shade or a shadow or something like that, and we'll see how it goes. Yep, that's Murphy for you, Just Jessup. It's always the last bit. I suppose if I'd have thought about it, really I should have made sure that I was doing a straight line across there, for example. When I thought I was nearly out, for example, I should have just come straight across here and left it. Now I could, if necessary, pull this bit out. I'd have to pull it out in all sorts of bits and pieces, because we went from this edge diagonally across, if you like, there. So I'd have to sort of pull a bit out, half a row and cut it off, half a row and cut it off, etc. So I could still do that if that becomes necessary. But what we'll do is we'll fill this whole area in. We'll then take another look at it, and we'll probably just dither the edge and take a look how it goes then. One of the most irritating things to happen really is running out of thread. Wakabanga, thank you very much for following the studio. That is most kind of you. I do appreciate it. And welcome. I mean, part of the problem is, I guess, with the colours is I haven't really bought any threads in a long time, so I'm guessing the colour has probably drifted over, you know, a few years, shall we say, and therefore, if I'd have bought, you know, a few over that period of time, I probably wouldn't have noticed it. But because I've got one that's very old compared to sort of something fairly brand new, then that's why it's standing out quite so much. If there's anybody watching that doesn't actually know what I'm doing here, this is something called Punchcraft. What I'm doing is literally punching holes through this material and forcing thread through from the back side to the front side, and in doing so I create a loop of thread on the other side, very much like carpets are made, and that then forms the actual image on the other side. So what you're looking at the moment is the reverse, or the working side. If you're wondering what the image is, it's of a UK, well, it's of a locomotive, a diesel electric locomotive in a UK livery. The locomotive is called a Class 66. Quite why it's called a Class 66 I have absolutely no idea, but it is. I just happen to like the picture. I'm not particularly well, I'm not a train buff of any kind. I do play Train Simulator. I do enjoy the image of the train, but I wouldn't go out looking for them or anything like that. So I'm not a train spotter or anything like that. I can't quite understand people that are, as to what they get out of it, but if they enjoy it, then yeah, good luck to them. Stabbing thread through. Yes, you could say I'm stabbing thread through. In some ways you could actually say I'm tattooing the material, because it's kind of the same thing as tattoos do. The tattoo punches your skin right through to the subdermis level and pushes a little drop of ink underneath the skin, and that ink, the drop of ink, is what actually forms the image. The only difference, of course, is that whilst this would be the skin that I'm going through, this is actually the back of the image, not the front, so the analogy sort of falls down fairly rapidly. Oh, there are times if you're not watching what you're doing and you actually push down really hard on this and you catch your fingers underneath. Tattooing probably is a good description. Actually, tattoos, I wouldn't say they are actually just Jessup, to be honest. Something of this size as a tattoo, I'm sure would probably take a lot longer than it's taken me to do this. Some of the simpler tattoos that are just sort of outlines or letters, something like that perhaps is fairly quick. But full-blown images, especially large ones, and bearing in mind this is 12-inch diameter, so that's what, about 36 square inches, which is quite a considerable area. I'm sure would have taken more than 10 hours. Of course, I'm not a tattoo artist, so that's pure guesswork on my part. But my only experience of tattoo artists is actually watching them on TV, and judging from that. Oh yeah. Well, the needles, of course, are driven. They're driven magnetically, so they're effectively like a relay. So in the UK, they'll be driven at 50 times per second. In the States, I think it's 60 hertz is the frequency. So they're faster in the States than they are in the UK. Actually, rather than a tattooist, when I'm doing this, I often feel more like a sewing machine. But then again, a sewing machine would also be somewhat faster on its needle. Electromagnets, yeah, that's right. Well, it's generally speaking, it's an electromagnet, but it's more of an electromagnetic relay. So what you've got is the magnet, but then on the end of it there's a flappy bit basically, which hits the needle and drives the needle in. But then there's a spring on the needle, and the spring actually it basically bounces, so the needle sort of bounces into the skin and back out, and so it keeps tapping the needle in, and the spring drives it back out, and it's driven with an AC waveform, so that you're actually getting that's where you're getting the 50 times per second hit of the needle from, rather than most relays will be driven with a DC. But in this particular case, they're driven AC, so that you actually get that bang, 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 bang effect. There you go. You see, complete with acting as well. A flappy bit, yeah, very technical. I actually don't know what that part is actually called, because the thing that came to mind was armature, but the armature is the bit which the coil is actually wound on. So I actually don't know what it would be. It's not there's no contacts on it, so they're not. That's not part of it. It is the bit that would drive the contacts itself, but. I understand you can actually have air-driven tattoo drivers as well, but driven from compressed air. But I don't quite know how they work. No, that's not sticking in. Come on. It's catching somewhere. Let's take a look at what that looks like on the other side. It's a bit patchy. I don't actually like working with a brand new reel. They're always sort of somewhat slightly sticky for some reason. They kind of seem to get caught, and you end up with a whole set of stitches being pulled out as you're going along. Six Packs of Cali, good evening. Welcome back to the studio. Thank you for joining this evening. Thank you very much. Haven't you seen me do this before? I mean, this piece is about 9 hours or so of work, which has been done on stream. So. Oh, it's just talking. It's getting a bit of practice, shall we say? Yes, it is a different colour. Oh no. I will. My wife has just come in. Yeah, it's marginally different colour. It's just a different shade. You saw it immediately, didn't you? Yeah. Oh, they're all the same. All four bobbins are the same. So what I'm going to have to do is to do a little bit of fiddling. Yeah, that's the problem with colour shades. It's like everything.
Matches. It should be. It's very different.
Well, these two batches of threads are sort of 6 years apart, so. So there you are, guys. It's that obvious that my wife from the other side of the room could see that these two. Yeah, these two threads are a very slightly different colour. But we'll see how we go. We'll see if we can actually hide the difference. Ow! That's me getting my finger in the wrong place when I stab the needle down. Ooh. I haven't actually injured myself as such. It's not hypodermic sharp or anything like that, but it's, you know, it's not broken the skin or anything, but you know, it's not the most pleasant of things. Um, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I just blame it on the illness, just Jessup, you know. There's all sorts of strange things happen when people have strokes. If I drop a needle in myself, you see, I can just blame it on the cold, saying I wasn't concentrating enough. I'm just thinking my voice probably is getting better because actually for most of the day I actually haven't been speaking a great deal, and so it's with coming on the stream and actually talking, it's just getting a little bit of exercise that it hasn't had all day. With a bit of luck, by the end of this week I'll be back to normal. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not quite sure. Me being normal, that's probably abnormal in itself. Right, well, it's actually amazing when you actually how long this takes. It doesn't look like it should take very long at all to do any of this, but we've now been going for almost 3/4 of an hour in just this small area, and it's only about half done. I admit I'm not particularly going as fast as I possibly could on this. You know, once you get into the rhythm, you can actually get going fairly quickly. Hence the sort of analogy to a sewing machine that I mentioned earlier on. But it is actually surprising where the time just vanishes to. You can almost get lost in this, and I don't mean lost in house. But you can actually just, you know, you can zone out almost while you're doing this. It's not like certain other crafts where you have to be concentrating all the time, and you know, it can be a very, very relaxing thing to do. A lot of the work is in actually obviously getting the original image and working out, you know, just how much detail you can or want to put in, and how to go about it, and selecting things like the colours and things like that. But once you're actually into the actual craft itself of just punching this through, unless you're doing some sculpting with the threads, like I did around the edges and a little bit on the undercarriage, then it's a fairly, I'll put it in quotes, easy thing to do. And you can just let your mind freewheel. It's great if you want to think about something else at the same time. It actually makes it very good for streaming because I can talk at the same, quite easily at the same time. Yeah, sure, Jessup. I wouldn't try that one at all. Because what you've just done there is admit that you're driving without due care and attention. Which in the UK at least is a criminal offence. Actually, if I was that bad, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be driving, but I probably wouldn't be streaming either, from that perspective. You guys are important, but so's my health. Thank you for the transcription, Jessup. That's quite nice of you. I'm sure Pucker Ranger says the same thing about glass blowing. It's an easy thing to do. But I mean, to be serious about it, I actually think this is a relatively easy thing to do. It's quite literally, he's just pushing this through the material. There is some skill involved in actual keeping the stitches, punches, whatever the right word to use would be, consistently spaced and things like that. Although it doesn't, it's not critical whether they're down to the sub-millimetre or anything like that. It's just approximately so far apart, and the so far is about a needle width, but it's not. Other than that, it's I think a lot of the more skill goes into the actual preparatory work than into the actual execution. Whereas other crafts, like for example the carving, certainly there's a lot more skill in the execution. Yep, that's probably right, just Jessup, especially tonight. It's a bit difficult actually for me to laugh because I'll start coughing if I'm not careful. So if I suddenly cut myself off, it's just I've muted the microphone just so that I don't deafen any of you guys who are wearing headsets. I was watching 80 Fall Guy earlier on this afternoon, and he was saying it's a bit of a quiet day on Twitch as well. Oh, Lost in House. Good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. Webboy's Beast. Hello. Welcome also to the studio. Well, tonight I'm kind of somewhat the same. Lost. I don't know. I'm hoping my voice will last out. It's actually getting better as I go through the evening. You do realise that Free has been trying to embarrass you over the past day or so, Lost? He keeps relating the story of your stream. Dear. But, yes, I was just talking about getting lost in this, and I guess that prompted you to appear, I guess. Oh, I'm sorry, Lost in House. Well, I've not been streaming, but I've been reading whilst I've been away, reading a heck of a lot, and I can be halfway through a book and exactly the same thing happens to me. Not quite the same thing, but he was also telling us about your I can't laugh tonight, otherwise I'll break out coughing. He was also telling us about your drama of being banned. You know, Lost. I suspect you're getting rather. I'm guessing. You know that joke about being lost in your house is really funny now, isn't it? I mean, having probably heard it about 700,000 times. Yeah, no, it's not a good idea to fall asleep in a stream. Never, whether you play music or anything. I don't think. But I do understand how easy it is to do. It actually does happen to me quite a bit. Not while I'm streaming, but I can be sat here watching videos, for example, and there could be videos, YouTube videos, of stuff I really want to see, and I'll just close my eyes and I'll wake up and the video's finished. And an hour or so has gone by, and it's kind of like, how the heck did that happen? I don't know, Webber. Why is 6 scared of 7? It would have to be a really good joke to actually get me laughing at it, to be honest. that's that block filled in. Now we'll turn it over in a second and go 789. Okay. Yeah, I can follow it. Didn't succeed though, but slow claps. Yeah, it's not bad. Not a bad. Not a bad joke. Let me get rid of that thread before I pull it and pull it out. Now then, got some more to do around there because it's I didn't fill it in. So what I'm going to do is, I guess you guys can actually see it now. You see how different it looks. That area I've just filled in. You know, I wonder. I'm almost wondering if it's the wrong colour. I am. I am wondering if it really is just the wrong colour. That's 29. Is that 29? 30. These shades are so close to each other. I am just wondering whether or not no, that's too light. There's a baby blue colour. This is ice blue. That's a different blue again. I've got hundreds, well I won't say I've got hundreds, I've got loads and loads of threads. Unfortunately some of them aren't numbered, some of them are. 31, let's have a look at blue acrylic is 8. Ice blue, there's 30's Bambino. Okay. That one's definitely darker. That's the baby blue, or the Bambino as it's called. That's definitely a different colour. It's darker than that, but lighter than that. Actually, yes, lost colour is blue on both copies of the browser I've got open. I should have. What I'm just doing now at the moment, guys, is I'm just looking through the thread colours. That's 32. That's not all. I got another colour, which is called light blue, which I'm just looking for. I just want to compare it. I'm kind of wondering if I've actually used the wrong colour here. I thought it was ice blue, which is what this is, but I'm just kind of wondering if it's not. Which would perhaps be accounted for by the fact that the colour chart is almost impossible to actually tell what colours are what. I mean, these two are so close to each other. Could you imagine looking at them on a colour chart and trying to work out which one is which? It's the one thing I wish the supplier did, would be to actually number them when they sent them out. So I'm looking for, that's 8. Okay, it's not that one, that's too light. Okay, so it is the same colour. Oh, it's supposed to be the same colour, is all I can do. So what I'm going to have to do now is feather the edge out, basically. There's not a lot else I can do about it. I'll try feathering the edge out and we'll see how that goes. If it doesn't work, what I'll do is I'll actually have to pull some of this blue out and fill it in, so we actually get a line across there in line with the roof of the train. And at least that way it wouldn't look quite so odd. Yeah, reasonable idea, actually. Reasonable idea. Especially since you kind of usually don't end, because you use the thread up and then you've nothing really to match it against. And actually, it is a good idea. I might actually do that. But when you look at those two, those two are different colours, and you can actually see the different colours. But it actually shows up a lot better on camera than being different colours. This Logitech 920 is very blue sensitive. In person, those two look a lot closer than they do on the camera. But it's really hard if you just take a thread or something and just try and I'm putting that thread on there, and it's looking lighter than this and more this colour. But that's the bobbin that we actually started with in the first place. If I do the same thing with this one again, actually that one actually does look a bit closer to being this colour. But when you look at the two bobbins side by side, they look basically the same colour. But I do like that idea of creating a small square. I might actually do that. Start with colour number 1 and work my way all the way up through all of them. At least I'll have some sort of reference then. But it is difficult to match sometimes. Yeah, I would be really hard pressed to say either of those was actually this block of blue here, and the one that's in the pen is the one that actually created it. Yeah. Right, so get that out of the way. That can go out of the way. So let's see what we can do around this junction here. So what I'm just doing here now is putting some of this darker shady blue in amongst the lighter blue that I've already done, which hopefully will sort of disguise the transition between the two. Actually, so look what that looks like. It's helping a little bit, but not much. Why are you comparing to the front, to the back, where it's more in thread form? Oh, I am on the. Why was I comparing the threads on the front side rather than the back side? Just because on the back side here you've got a lot of white in between from the material, which makes everything look whiter. On the front side here, it's about 1/4 of an inch thick, or 1/8 of an inch thick. So what you're actually seeing is more of a solid colour. But effectively, it doesn't make a great deal of difference. I was just doing it. It was just the way it happened to be laid. Yeah, the camera's seeing it more than actual life. I'm going to just try and that's not really doing it. Sorry, I'm just flipping it backwards and forwards. I've got to. Let me cut this off, then I don't accidentally pull things out. Okay, I need to put a few more threads in this area here. It's just not particularly very dense. It doesn't actually look too good. It's not actually so bad in person here as it looks on the camera. The camera actually makes it stand out a lot more. So what I'm just doing here is there's some soft areas, so I'm just putting some extra loops in, which will make the texture on the other side a little bit more firm. Okay, we'll take a look at that. Yeah, it was really random stabbing actually. You want to be careful, talking just about stabbing like that, just Jessup, if somebody wasn't reading things in context. Yeah, actually, it is at that level, Lost, you're right. You mean you have never watched Lost in House's stream, just Jessup? Oh dear. No, I am. That's it. It's done. The extra ones I put in amongst here, the slightly darker ones, actually, if I just fluff the material a little bit, you can sort of see it starts to shade towards a similar sort of colour on camera, but in person it's not as bad as it looks on camera. I can see it, but the only way of rectifying it would be to pull this area out here and just go straight across. If I went straight across there in this other blue, it would be less noticeable because it would just look like a little bit of dark area in the sky, like you might get at sunset or something like that. But no, I think we'll call that done. I think we'll call that one done. And next time, make sure we've got enough thread to finish it. In Punchcraft, well, what I'm going to do now is move on to some carving for about 3/4 of an hour. But in terms of what am I going to do next in Punchcraft, or after the carving? Next in Punchcraft, I haven't actually thought about it too much. I was thinking about doing a series of the engines. Maybe some of the more famous ones, like the Mallard, which holds the steam. I think it still holds the steam record. Or you've got the Flying Scotsman, and just do some of the famous ones, perhaps. Or some of the ones that people tend to like the Intercity 125s. But no, I haven't really thought about it. I could do some more pussycats in this. I've got 3 of our other. I've got 3 done like this of pussycats, which were our original 3 kittens that we had. So I could do some more of the cats. I don't really know. I just not all images are really suitable. But if anybody's got any ideas, portrait of Lost in Punchcraft. Portraits don't really come out too well, to be honest, just Jessup, because you need a lot of different shades. So it's a bit like trying to do a portrait with just black and white. It's really hard to do. That's no shading at all. It's literally black and white. You just end up it's not even a cartoon thing. If you think, well, about that's probably about the closest you could get. It's like a cartoon style, you know, where you'd have an outline in black, and you know, an outline of the nose in black, if you like, and the rest would just be pink, a single colour. They don't turn out too well. Things like the cats. Generally speaking, unless you've got something like an all white cat, you've got some variation in the colour of the fur, for example, you know, brown and white, or stuff like, or streaks or patches, which, you know, it gives you some sort of variation. And with something like a cat's face, I can use sculpting, which is making some of the threads longer and shorter, which is how the edges of this have been done. They've been rounded off, and using it on a cat's face, which wouldn't sort of, it probably wouldn't look as good this size. It'd be a smaller one. You can use sculpting to sort of put some more texture and variation into the image, which you can't really easily do on a person's face. It doesn't work. It doesn't work so well. I don't know. I really don't know what to do next on a Punchcraft. It's, you know, I'm not necessarily going to start one for another one for a while now. Because if we're going to take the carving, then pyrography, then the scraper board again, and now that the secret has been revealed, I'm going to do some more chainmail. My wife got her present on holiday of the chainmail bracelet and necklace, and it's actually 2 bracelets and necklace, and the bag charms that I bought from Mady Fall Guy, and so it's no longer a secret now. So I'm going to do some more chainmail stuff, because I really enjoyed doing that when I got sort of some half decent players. It was a lot more fun doing that. So it's going to be quite a few more weeks before we get back to doing some more Punchcraft, unless I just decide to do it ad hoc at some point, just for a change. But anyway, I shall put this away. Oh, I finished. Well, okay, I finished a few. It's who's Baby Tears is the one that actually wants a portrait done, but in pyrography. She suggested that as the next thing I should do in pyrography is a portrait of her. 3D guy suggests an elephant, so make of that what you will. Sorry, that did actually make me laugh. No, haven't you seen me finish? Didn't you see me finish that, just Jessup? I mean, we kind of finished that twice, because we finished the carving on that, and then we did painting on top of it. Yeah, and it's, well, I don't know quite how you pronounce chain mail. I know how to spell it, but and we also finished these 2 pyrography pieces. Felix and Junior. And well, a couple of other things. We've got some scraper board. This is I'll try and keep it out the reflection. That's a portrait of John Miles, which is a singer-songwriter, which is a finished piece. I must get some sort of varnish to go on there, but I'll have to research what I can actually use. And one that I'm actually working on, which I'm not actually finished, but we keep doing it on stream from time to time, is this one. which is Earthrise. So this one in actually, well, I mean, I could call it finished at any point, but I actually want to do some more work on it. But this one is close to being finished. I think that's about all I actually have finished on stream, but oh, and of course we did finish that on stream as well. Camera won't actually zoom out enough to get hold of it in, but that's a quadcopter which we actually did on stream and finished. You should watch more often, Just Jessup. Anyway, I can carry on talking, or I can actually start and get some carving out. Yeah. Actually, the VOD probably isn't still there. I do have a recording of it, which, when I get round to editing it into time lapse, I'll put it on YouTube. But I haven't done that yet. We were doing the wing, I think, on this. Where's my G clamp? Well, at some point this year, Just Jessup, we won't be doing another quadcopter because I don't particularly want another one. Not unless somebody wants to buy me one just to build. But I don't expect that to happen. I do have a small, by small I mean this sort of size, laser cutter that I've got to build. It is literally just about this size. It's cube shaped, but so I've got that to build. That's probably small. Well, I kind of have been putting it off because I don't have a lot of space to use it in, so I kind of didn't want to build it just to have it sat in a box somewhere. But I do also have, and I will not be building that till I move studios, but I do have a 3D printer to build. You want to buy me a quadcopter, Just Jessup? I'll quite happily build it. They are several £100 though, so you might want to think again. Right, so these are the. I've now got to remember what I was doing. That's the arm. That's the fingers. Okay. I know I'm going to regret picking something as awkward to this to do. I've enjoyed sorry, I've actually enjoyed doing the dragon, but so far, but it's been an extremely challenging piece to do. It's by far the most complicated piece I've done so far. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's. Excuse me. There are. I mean, there are other tools besides flex cut. Lizard cell. It's really just about getting good quality tools more than anything else. But I know flex cut are good tools. I think there's some. I'm trying to remember the name of this. There are some tools that are made by a Swiss manufacturer, which probably are more potentially more readily available. But I'm now going to get back into this and remember actually how I was doing it and just what I was doing. I've got to make the arm up. I've got to make this look now like that, in that the the arm bones, etc., stand out more. And this is because the wing membrane is actually underneath the arm. And by the way, you're talking of arms. Thank you very much, Just Jessup, with regard to the tan. I sat under an umbrella for the whole of the holiday. I did not sit out in the sun at all. Which has annoyed my wife somewhat terribly, because she did, and I'm browner than she is. Yes, File is the one I was thinking of, but I'm not sure. As you say, I'm not sure whether they had the interchangeable blades. I suppose it does add to the cost, doesn't it, to have the handle permanently fixed. And I know with the flex cut you can get an adapter that goes onto a couple of things. The Proxon make a reciprocal driver, which you can with an adapter you can use flex cut tools in as well. So a reciprocal driver is an electric tool which actually hammers the chisel, and the Fordham is the other people that make big flexible shaft drives, and they have a handpiece which is a reciprocal driver as well, and you can get an adapter to put flex cut tools into that. So I suppose they are potentially quite a good investment in that respect. Yeah. Mind blown. What by me? Just you are right, Lizard. So that's precisely all it is. There is a lot of reflection off the sand, and the beach umbrellas where I was are actually perforated, so it's not a hard shade. It's a partial shade. But I actually do spend a lot of time. I don't actually spend a lot of time down on the beach. I do spend a lot of time in hard shade because I just don't like the heat. Don't mind the sunshine as such, but I just don't like the heat, so I tend to stay away from that sort of thing. I'm a lot more happier, if you like, being where there's a breeze. So I actually spent quite a lot of time sort of in building shades and stuff, like in the shade of buildings, and actually in fully shaded areas like that. So, and I've still gone brown. I actually just tan relatively easily. My wife keeps actually wanting me to actually sunbathe because she actually wants to see how dark my skin will actually go. But to be honest, I can't sunbathe. I get bored. British temperatures are perfect for you. Oh, so. It's it can get quite warm in the UK sometimes. I mean, what's it in the studio here now? It's currently 25 degrees here in the studio, so that's pretty warm. And of course over here though we have the humidity, so 25 over here feels a lot hotter than 25 did in some of the European countries where the humidity is a lot lower. So what I'm doing now is just using a small gouge, literally just to gouge out some material around these two bones here, right in this small gap where I can't really get another chisel in to do this with. Now it's actually quite difficult to create a smooth shape like this because of the chisel being so narrow, it actually creates a groove, and when you're trying to move outside of that groove, the chisel tends to want to drop into the groove that you've just created. So it's really quite hard actually to create a smoothed area. That's why I'm using this finger here, if you like, as a side stop. I'm forcing the chisel sideways using this finger, just to sort of try and keep that smooth round shape. I'm still not being fantastically good at it, but it is actually working. I'm trying to do is remove enough material from the side of the bones so I can then round them off like I've done on this side here. We are drinking. I don't know, to be honest, just Jessup. I mean, that kind of describes me. I'm once I've got the image, that I want to do, then I can sort of get on and do it. What I'm not particularly good at, is imagining. Well, no, that's not true, strictly true actually, because I can imagine quite a few things, but I'm trying to work out how to express this actually. I was thinking, I have two problems. One is coming up with an image in the first place, like we were just talking about then. What might I do next in the Punchcraft? And I'm not actually altogether sure what I would do in that way. And so coming up with something like that sometimes can be quite hard. And quite often, I've got a number of different ideas I can do, but I just can't pick one. And sometimes that's because I can't quite work out how to execute it, actually how to do the image that I've got in my own mind. I mean, I read a lot of science fiction, and I see a lot of images from reading science fiction that I'd love to be able to do, but I just can't translate that image in my own mind into an actual piece I can execute. Whereas if I can actually execute it, let's say make a drawing of it, then I can carve it, I can do pyrography. Once I've got the image set, I can do it, but it's actually that bit of translating the image in my mind onto a piece of paper, and part of that, I'm kind of thinking part of that is just confidence and just going ahead and doing it, because just making the first mark, and then like when I was doing the scraper board, the first scraper board, never having done it before, that was the John Miles one. Once you got the first mark down, it became, I just went from there, and there was a whole section of his face that I left quite a long time. I was being quite daunted by it, not quite working out how to do it, and I just kept chipping away at the sides, doing a little bit, and eventually the whole face was done, and it was kind of like, oh, that bit that I didn't think I could do, I've done. And I think that's something that I have that's the problem that I have is stop thinking I don't know how to do this and start saying, well, just have a go. Yeah. And it's I think it's just it is just like a confidence thing, and it's kind of like, well, I've mentioned on stream before how I kind of don't like wasting material, and I'll wait until I've got, for example, I've got a piece of canvas board behind me, a large canvas board, which I got to do some airbrush work on. But I kind of don't want to do just anything on there. I want to do something, in quotes, special on there. And I don't want to waste it. And now, as Free will tell you, you can just gesso over something again. If you don't like it, just paint over it and do it again. But and it was saying with carving, I wanted an image to carve that I thought was was worth doing on the piece of wood that I got. Because the wood costs it costs a few quid to buy a block of wood, a few pounds, £5 or £6 to buy a block of wood this sort of size. That's probably about $10, sort of €8-9, something like that. And it's I don't want to waste it, and so I kind of put off doing things until I can find something that's worth, in quotes, doing. And I think that that sort of thing is probably why I have a problem translating images that are in my own mind as well into a piece of artwork that I can then work with other medium on. And it's kind of silly in a way, because I've got the PC here, I've got graphics tablets. It's a Cintiq display, so I can actually draw on the display, and there's nothing wasted, but it's still something that I find difficult to do. And that is something actually streaming has helped in a way, because it's kind of like, well, I'm going to stream it, and if I'm going to stream, I'll quite happily stream the fact that I'm having problems working out how to do it. So you guys can understand just what what it sometimes you have to go through to think about. So I suspect that I'm going to get better at doing that sort of thing over time, just because trying to stream this sort of art or craft work for you guys is kind of forces me to do some of the things that I've avoided doing before. I mean, I suspect I probably wouldn't have done this dragon if I'd have been doing it just for myself. I'd have gone, that's a bit too hard, and I'll leave that till I get better. And yet here I am doing it, and I'm getting better by doing it. I can probably go to a bigger chisel now. Yeah, that's kind of the same thing, Jessup, isn't it? Once you've got the picture, whatever that picture is, whether it's a design or an image or something in your mind, or articulate it, you can look at it, you can study it. However you do that, then you can go from there. Just around here, I'm going to be a little bit careful, because that area is actually narrower than the chisel. So I'm going to have to go back to actually I've got another U-shaped gouge here. Yeah, it is. it over here a bit more. I'm going to have to, well, hopefully when I get the new studio I'll have better lighting. So. Yeah, just that kind of describes what I was describing there, just Jessup. It's getting that idea, and when I was at school or college, it's that sort of thing. Whether it's product design or even whether it's write an essay, for example. I remember in one of the college courses, I can't remember what it was for, but one of the pieces that we had to do was to write a piece about a controversial subject, and it was coming up with that original idea. Once you got the idea, it flowed from there, and could just go on from that. Lino cutters, linoleum cutters. Would they be? I suspect. I'll take a look if you want, Lizard Soul. I'm not sure. Linoleum is a relatively soft material. And I'm kind of suspecting probably they wouldn't be so bad. I mean, the other thing I was thinking about is linoleum is shallow, so you are doing very very fine relief carving on linoleum and linoleum cutters. So I'm suspecting that you probably could do a very fine surface, like a 1 or 2 millimeter depth on wood. But it would have to be a relatively soft wood, I suspect. Yeah, okay. I'm looking at the link that you actually sent. Two things strike me about that. The first one is those tools look like they are not meant for heavy duty. So, which linoleum isn't heavy duty. It's for fine detail. And there's virtually no grain in linoleum. So, if you've got some really soft wood, like basswood or European lime, possibly would be okay. But anything harder than that definitely wouldn't be, I don't think, on those. I'm not sure that they keep their edge on wood as much as they would do on linoleum. The other thing that crosses my mind is they look awfully cheap. Now I don't know anything about linoleum print cutting, but £10 for what looks to be 5 blades looks really cheap to me, to be honest. So I'm not quite sure what sort of level of quality you will get with those. I mean, if you compare it to just one of these, pick any one of these blades, there's £10 just for the blade. In fact, it's probably about £15 for this blade, but somewhere between £10 and £15 for any of the blades that you've seen me use. And that advert is for 5 blades for £10. Having said which, of course, I was about to say, £10 isn't a lot of money. It can be a lot of money to some people. If you know, I hesitate to say it, but it's if you had the money to do it and didn't mind if they didn't turn out to be suitable, it's the sort of thing you could get to play with and see whether it would do what you wanted. But literally, I would only be expecting you to be able to do 1 or 2 millimeter depth. Now, that's deeper than I'm carving here. Sorry, I'm carving deeper here than 1 or 2 millimeters. So you'd have to bear that in mind. It would be really, really shallow on wood, because linoleum is well, it's thinner than this is. So in fact, there is a streamer that I've seen doing linoleum cutting, and then linoleum. I'll call it lino because it's easier to say. Lino cutting, and then they actually ink it and were creating a picture. So actually doing lino printing. And they were doing like a portrait of somebody, I think. So maybe if you can see the if you could find them doing it, then maybe they could advise you on whether those lino tools there are of sufficient quality to do lino cutting, or whether they're cheap for lino cutting. To be honest, they strike me as being cheap for lino cutting as well. But I actually don't know what lino tools are like at all in terms of price. So I mean, if lino tools are that sort of thing, then they could be reasonable quality for that purpose. But I really do suspect you struggle trying to do any sort of wood cutting with them. They don't look strong enough to be able to support it. As I say, this wood, you might get away with it. Anything else, I'm not sure of. Yeah, I'm not. I say I'm not really tried it though, Lizard. So to be able to advise you, I can't really. That's just sort of my impression. Is that it's really difficult to say. It's really difficult to say because lino cuts a lot easier than wood does, and I kind of don't really want to sort of what's the word I'm looking for? I don't really want to sort of attribute them to be bad tools when I've not actually seen them, use them, or know anything about lino cutting. I'm afraid. So I think if you want to get into sort of general carving, maybe if you say sort of fine details, low relief cutting to start with, but then if you might want to go into more deeper relief cutting like I'm doing here, then certainly these the flex cut tools would probably be a better investment for you. Shit, those two. Where did I say I got mine from? Oh, I got mine from a company that I actually went into the place and bought them. But I'm just thinking that can pause. So I'm just doing an internet right, so do these do well? I tell you what, okay, there is there is a company here. Let me just give you that that link, Lizard Soul. That's a company that do sell in the UK. Do sell flex cut tools, and they would appear to sell to some international countries. Italy is mentioned as one of them. I don't obviously the price of international deliveries is going to be different. They appear to have available or to be able to get a fair range of the cutters. So that's one that you might want to just take a look at. As to which OS I'm using, at the moment I'm using Windows 7 on the streaming PC. I've got a Windows 8.1 machine sat to the side of me, and I've got a couple of Linux machines around on the desk. But generally speaking, it's a Windows PC that I'm. The main PC is Windows 7. I may upgrade it to Windows 10 when it comes out, but I'm waiting until the compatibility with OBS and Coral Painter and Adobe Lightroom and Paint Shop. Is it Paint Shop? Photoshop. Before I'll actually do any upgrades. All that and Wacom drivers for the various pen displays. Yes, there is. On both Windows 7 and the Windows 8 machine, they came on in the last update. So it's not a virus if you got that. It's a pre-order for Windows 10. You can pre-order it, and what happens I think it's about June the 29th. On June the 29th, I think it is, that you can get an automatic upgrade will then take place. So it'll come down as a Windows update, just like any other update to any other Windows applications, and it will upgrade to 10. Yeah. Well, as to Windows 10 for life. Well, it depends on what they decide to do for what comes after Windows 10. Is it July 29th? Okay, well I got the 29th bit. They could decide to charge for whatever's the next upgrade after 10. I know the talk has been that they're going to follow what Apple are doing now, in that they'll give the operating system away and give away updates. But I don't know if that's actually being confirmed at the moment. But to be honest, it's a case of you don't really want to be too far behind the curve on the Windows updates. I mean, looking at it, I don't think there's much well, there doesn't appear to be much difference in the Windows 10 and Windows 8 kernel, but I haven't made a reservation yet because I'm not actually sure whether the update would be manually initiated or not. What I don't want it to do is to actually just go and update at that time. because if I say if it doesn't work with coral or some problems with coral or Wacom, then my main applications just stop working, and that's what I use the PC for most. Digital painting, which I need the Wacom drivers to work for, and of course OBS for broadcasting. So if the upgrade happened automatically and those didn't work, then you don't get to have any streams from me for quite a while. So I'm probably going to wait until after it's been, about a week or two after it's been released. Check all the main applications that I use are then compatible, and then upgrade both machines. Actually, I've got 4 machines to upgrade. Okay. I did try looking on Microsoft website, but it didn't actually say anything about what it actually did. Whether it just did a download and then you had to go ahead, or whether it just fired it off by itself. Okay, let's switch this to a flat blade. No, it's okay. Don't worry about that lizard at all. There may well be others. I don't, having having got a set, I've not had any real need to buy any more tools. So I do have a couple of extra, which I probably got from GNS. I've got a big flat chisel here, 7/8 wide flat chisel, and I've got another gouge I think in the other case. So I have bought a couple since I got the set, but I've not had any real need to go and buy any more. So it's not the sort of thing I actually looked for. Oh, it's the skew chisel I've got in the other bag. My actual problem was that I've had finding things has been pyrography tools. There's the machine that, you know what, my brain's going. The razor tip pyrography machine I've got, there's not too many UK suppliers or distributors that sell the whole range of, in fact they don't, the ones I've found so far don't sell the whole range of fixed pens, and I actually prefer fixed pens to the interchangeable tips that use this. These pens get a little bit warmer, and for various reasons I just prefer the fixed tip pens. And I've actually been spending quite a bit of time looking for suppliers of the fixed tip variants that I like the shaders, and funnily enough, about the only supplier I can find so far is actually in Italy. Which is amusing in a way. I could end up ordering tools from Italy, and you order chisels from the UK. You might just be best ordering. If the set has stuff in it you don't need, then it might well be better just getting a couple of the blades that actually suit you better. No, the razor tip is I bought from the UK, the machine itself. But I was actually looking for some data, and I don't actually know now off the top of my head who it was, but I was sort of looking in Europe, and I do recall it was somewhere in Italy. I haven't got around to doing anything about it just yet, but there's it's kind of like I could replace sort of this replaceable tip with a fixed pane, which will cost me I don't know, about 25 pounds, UK pounds, or I could do something like buy some chainmail supplies, or I could buy some plastic beads to do the fuse beads with, and I've kind of like bought the plastic beads and the chainmail supplies and this microphone I'm talking into now, and I've kind of spent all my money. So I've not got around to doing the fixed tips yet. Yeah, I'm not sure if Free's streaming tonight, to be honest. He wasn't sure last night whether he was going to stream. I haven't heard any notification here pop up of Free streaming. No, not at the moment, anyway. So I'm going to go on for about another, well, probably about another 15 minutes, I think, because I'm feeling okay at the moment. I won't be going on very late, but I think I'll go on for a little bit longer. What I'm just doing now is just starting to round off the side of this bone here, just to see whether I've gone deep enough to achieve the look that I'm after. And I can achieve a rounded effect. Because if I haven't, then I can obviously go a bit deeper then. I suppose while I'm doing this, what I should also say is just a reminder to anybody that's kind of watching me that might well feel like taking up carving. I've got a cold, and if I wasn't feeling more up to it, I would not suggest anybody carving if they're feeling ill. It's too easy to be either distracted or just, if you're not feeling very well, then you can lose concentration about what you're doing, and at the best you can damage the piece you're working on, or at worst you can damage yourself because you're not concentrating. So if you're a carver and you don't feel up to it, don't carve. It can wait another day or 2 days or whatever until you feel better. Now that needs a little bit more work down there. What mic am I using? I am using a Rode M3 off the top of my head. I think it was the M3. Where's my box? Yeah, it is. It's a Rode M3 microphone, together with a Focusrite preamp and phantom power supply. Bubbles the Monkey, good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. Thank you very much for the welcome back. That's kind of you. How are you doing, Bubbles? What sort of piece are you working on now? Roughly for what, for the microphone and microphone. The M3 is probably about £80 in the UK. That's probably in the region of about €95, about $110. And the microphone, the digitize the analog to digital converter is probably about another £40 UK, about €55, $60, something like that. I chose this microphone on purpose though, so I mean there are potentially cheaper microphones. There's obviously a lot more expensive microphones as well. This one I've got because it's an end fire microphone. That means you point it at you basically, and I put, the position on my desk makes that preferable for me. It's a lower profile than a lot of the broadcast mics that are used, and it's actually more of a voice microphone than a music or a singing microphone, which is actually what a lot of microphones are for, are either for voiceovers where you have to be really close to the mic, or therefore singing, which is means they are less sensitive to being used at a distance. This one's about 18 inches to 2 feet away from me, which is kind of the distance I wanted, because I didn't want a microphone right up in my face, which would have been sort of quite awkward when I'm doing things like carving and things like that, and I didn't want it in front of the screen, so that I can't see what you guys see, and so it's quite difficult to find microphones like that. I did at one point consider using a wireless microphone, but apparently they go through batteries quite a bit. Bubbles, some family drama. Okay, well I hope the family drama resolves itself. That's not really good. Were you doing the Lich King? Yeah, by all means, link a reference image if you like, Bubbles the Monkey. Were you doing that a couple of weeks ago? Just before I went away? Because I think I saw you a couple of times then, and I believe you mentioned some. Oh no, that was something else where you accidentally spilt the whole card. Let's have a look. That's a nice image. Is that? That's going to be fun. When you go live, I'll take a look at that, because it's going to be fun to see how you do that. Because that's a nice image. Is that? That strikes me. That image strikes me as challenge. in any of the media that I'm comfortable with, it strikes me as challenge. Does that one to get the tonal range that's in there. I mean, everything from the glow to the darks that are in there. Just around this joint here, I can't quite get the... There we go. The bond's a little bit thick, but we can always adjust that afterwards. It's I kind of want them to be relatively thin. These are not too bad. I don't want them sort of like great big thick things. They're meant to be sort of finger bones, not sort of arms. You know, this is what this is. This is the arm. So these need to be somewhat more delicate, but got to be careful to. You can't actually achieve, or I can't achieve, really delicate things at the moment. I don't have that level of skill. So I've just got to work on it, but. 8 out of the 15 boards. Ooh. I'm guessing they're tucked away somewhere really safely. Irish Lurker, good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. Thank you for dropping in. I don't think we've seen... I'm not sure whether I've seen you before. If I have, welcome back, and sorry if I've not sure whether you've been in before. Just in this area I've got a problem where the grain changes direction a little bit, and it means I can't easily carve from this. I've got to change direction in which I'm carving from. Which all adds to the challenge. I need this to be a little bit more distinct. At the moment, I can't really see the edge of the arm bone here, like I can on this side here. I've not got a distinct edge, and I kind of need that distinct edge so that it's visible. You know, there's a visible difference between the arm and the wing membrane. Okay, sorry, Irish Lurker, not to have recognised you. I'll blame the cold that I've got. That's, yeah, it's affecting my memory. It has actually been kind of strange having having been away for 2 weeks, I hesitate to say I've missed streaming because it's not quite like that, but it's kind of like I've missed doing the art. Yeah, I'm ill. Yeah, ice a cold. That's right. Yeah, I've had a cold. Well, I think I've had 2 colds in the last 2 weeks. This is my second one, and this one has actually made my voice change. At the start of the stream, I could get sort of really Barry White low in my voice, but it's recovered a little bit over the stream to be somewhat more normal, but not 100% there, as you have discovered. Well, it seems like a few people have noticed me not being around, which was not quite sure whether I should be quite how I should take that. Yeah, I'm sure I'm Zaragan. Well, I'm not. I'm Zaragan Art, so yeah. As I was saying earlier on the stream, Bubbles, I spent 2 weeks sat under an umbrella or in the shade. Certainly, I did not sit out in the sun. So the camera actually is the camera's exaggerating it slightly, but actually not a lot. And it drives my wife potty because she sunbathes and I don't. And this is my colour, and my wife is more like that. I just tan really easily. She keeps trying to persuade me to actually sit out in the sun and just to see how brown my skin will go, but I get bored too easily to do that. Plus I find it too hot, to be honest. I'm not getting this arm bone to be like I want it to be at the moment. Where's that V couch? I'm not really getting the shape I want for this particular bone. So I'm just trying to reshape it a little bit. It just seems too thick at the moment and not particularly straight, so what I'm doing here is using a very tiny V gouge. It literally is V-shaped, so it's got a point on the bottom, which creates a fairly sharp profile, like an L shape. or a V shape, hence the name. I see. Well, it's Baby Tears who calls me Hans, so I'd, when I've saved up enough money or for it, I intend to get another camera so you can actually see my face. I don't have a problem with it. I just don't have the money to do it. Besides, you've seen me before. Have I inverted the camera? Yeah, I have. So let me flip the camera, which I've done in here. I think flip vertically. There we go. There you go. I'm wearing a headband because it's warm in here. So let me take that off. Now my hair's all over the place. But hello, everybody. I don't have a problem with showing me my face. You probably don't want to see it that close normally. Yeah, it's always the money. Unfortunately, these cameras, while they're really nice, they are sort of 90 quid, £90. So it's I should sit a bit further back, shouldn't I? That way at least it doesn't look too bad. It is weird, I look to be out of sync, but I don't think I am. Anyway, shall I get back to the carving? It's me. No. Not quite. Bob was the second. Yeah. Let's go back to the carving. Actually, let me zoom that in a bit as well. I zoomed it out earlier and I forgot to zoom it in. No, I'm quite happy wearing. It's just a short sleeve shirt. I do wear them at times. Put the headband on as well. Stops me dripping onto the wood. Let me flip that vertically as well. That way you see it from my perspective. And we'll just get rid of some of those windows. There we go. Bob Ross the second. Now, just Jessup. What I'm now just trying to do is just smooth out this bottom a little bit. Here. It's quite rough. I've been obviously been using this little tiny gouge. And I mentioned earlier it's really hard with a tiny gouge, is a tiny width, to get a flat, to use it to create a flat area, because the gouge naturally creates a little U shape, and as you're trying to create a flat area on the bottom, the gouge naturally wants to drop into the little valley it's just created. And if I'm trying to create a flat area, I don't want it to drop into that little valley it just created. I want to widen the valley. to be a lot more smooth than it actually is. Might have to use a scraper. Oh, it's alright, just Jessup. There's just, you know, you got that sort of shot, but there's no point in dwelling on it, shall we say. Okay, I've got that area. I need to work on the other side of this. No, yeah, as you. I've no particular plan at the moment of how I'm working on this particular arm. I know I need to make it more prominent, like I did on this side, and I've done that now down here. Still not happy with the shape of it, but what I am now realised is that I need to lower the other side a little bit as well, and that may actually improve the look of it. I suspect I'm being thrown off by the fact that this side hasn't been cut deep enough yet, and it's making me look at the arm in the wrong way. So what I'm going to do is lower this side a little bit, and then hopefully what it'll do is when I've rounded it off, it'll actually look more like what the image I've got in my head, and then I'll be able to proceed further from there. Now I'm going to be careful because I don't want to go too far on, because on this side here, this bit of the arm is about where I want it to be, so I don't want to lower this bit much more, if at all. Now at this point the V gouge probably comes in quite useful, because it's a V-shaped crease really here. If you look at your own elbow, you get the V shape of the sort of V-shaped crease. You know what? There we go. I am going to stop for this evening. I've just seen what time it is. It's 10:30, so I think that's enough for now. And it is the first stream back, so I think we'll pack up for this evening. They do sound interesting, Bubbles. What games are they for? Is this from a humble? I cannot say humble bundle. I can't say it. Humble bundle. Okay, I would say thank you, Bubbles, but I actually have both of those games. Yeah, I've got them. I think I've got them both for the PC and actually for I think it's for the Wii. So humble bundle. Yeah, it for some reason I just couldn't get that phrase out. But for once I don't have chippings all over the desk. I've got a few on the floor, but not all over the desk. I've half played that Siberia. I've not played the Tunguska one yet, but it's both of them looked interesting games.
Your voice is really low. Stop.
I am stopping, and it's actually higher than it was. um, that is just my wife being concerned about my voice. It's the cold. Yes, it is the cold. And both of those games are also about the cold. Hashtag blame the cold. Yeah. Well, it's a good idea anyway. Give it a rest. I've been talking now for a couple of hours, so 2.5 hours indeed. So we'll give up for this evening. Be back on tomorrow night, and we'll be doing some more of this, I think. I've got to finish it soon because I'll get bored with it before much if I don't get it done within about another week or so. So if it does go on much longer than that, we might put it to one side for a little bit and come back to it after doing something else. I do tend to, whilst I'm very patient and I can do something like this for weeks on end. Once I get bored, I have to move on to something else and come back. I can't keep doing it for months and months and months. Not that it's going to take that long, but I think there's about another week's worth of work to do. Just depending on how finicky I get in trying to do these bones around here, but we shall see. We shall see. I'm not done anything this complex before, so I really don't know how well I'm doing or not. Anyway, she absolutely loved it, Just Jessup. Thank you. For her birthday, so she got the necklace that you saw and the 2 bracelets, and she actually got the 4 bag charms, and she was absolutely over the moon about it. She now wants more, and in fact, whilst we were away, it triggered her. Shall we say? It triggered her buying reflexes, and she got quite a bit more jewellery whilst we were on holiday, and now she wants some more of the chainmail, and. She absolutely loves it. So I will be making some more at some point on stream. Maybe this weekend. Might do some on Saturday or Sunday afternoon. And see how that goes. But yeah, thanks for asking. She does absolutely love it. I'm just thinking now how much it's going to cost me to keep making a jewellery out of that. Cheaper than buying it in the shops anyway. Hot lemon and honey. Yes, Bubbles. Yeah. It's literally more or less just my voice at the moment. Now my voice goes at the back end of a cold, so I've kind of almost got rid of it. And my voice is. As I get over most of the cold, my voice drops, and then it comes back up after it. So, oh yeah, it makes a good present for anything now. Does that, Just Jessup? You never go. You take a break. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Well. Thanks everybody for watching this evening and chatting. It's been absolutely fantastic having you around. Thank you for coming back after the long, the 2-week pause. Nice to have you all back and around. If there's anybody that's watching that isn't following me, then of course I would encourage you to do so. if only because at least you will get notified when I go live again tomorrow night. And if you don't trust Twitch to tell you, you can always follow me on Twitter. The details are below the stream window, but it's at Zaragonart. And a tweet should go out when I go live each evening. So that's about the only tweet that does get sent. So you're not going to get inundated if you choose to follow me there as well. But on the other hand, if you just want to lurk and drop in on the off chance that I'm around, I generally start streaming around about 8 PM in the UK. That's 1900 hours GMT. Or if you're feeling a little bit too laid back to look it up on Google, then if you look at your clock, subtract 2.5 hours from it. That's what time I would have started in the UK, and that's what time I'll start tomorrow night. Give or take a little bit. Just depending on when I finish my tea and whatever else I'm doing. But apart from that, again, thank you, Lizard Soul, Just Jessup, Bubbles, the Monkey, and anybody else that's watching. I hope to see you all tomorrow evening.